raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Christopher McKay, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge the duties of Lieutenant in the Avon Lake Fire Department from February 13, 2018, and thereafter during my continuance in said office.
I, Christopher McKay, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge the duties of Lieutenant in the Avon Lake Fire Department from February 13, 2018, and thereafter during my continuance in said office.
Congratulations. Okay, would you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Joseph Parker, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge the duties of firefighter paramedic in the Avon Lake Fire Department from February 23, 2018, and thereafter during my continuance in said office.
I, Joseph Carter, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge the duties of firefighter paramedic in the Avon Lake Fire Department from February 23, 2018, and thereafter during my continuance in said office. Congratulations.
Okay, I did receive a notice from the Ohio EPA informing us that the energy power plant is subject to a public hearing on the stormwater discharge permit. The public hearing will take place at the Avon Lake Public Library on April 25th at 6 p.m. in the Wagaman Gallery. And the hearing will end when everyone in attendance has had an opportunity to provide comments. So if you are interested in that event, you're welcome to attend. We do have an address here in case you want to send written comments. That's your choice. We did have a ward meeting last Wednesday for wards 1 and 2, and it was very successful. We didn't have as many questions from the floor, but we certainly had a very large crowd afterwards asking individual questions. It was a very positive meeting. We had a number of people comment on a number of things that people did. There were compliments for the snow plowing, the road clearing, Mr. Wrights. Thank all your folks for that. And also there were compliments on our new city sign. So Mr. Danielson from Avon Lake Regional Water was present to answer questions. He only got 2 questions from the floor, but he was busy, along with 2 of his assistants, answering individual questions with regard to the projects that are going on right now. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 21st for wards 3 and 4. The cards have come out, and they have apparently received them because we have already gotten a couple calls inquiring about the fact that there is going to be a ribbon cutting on that same night, but at 6 o'clock at the new facility there in the old shopping center. I think Mr. James will probably want to comment on that. And lastly, as I mentioned last time we met, we do have an Eastern Coyote Facts and Fiction meeting, workshop, if you will, at the Rocky River Nature Center at 24000 Valley Parkway in North Olmsted. That's February 24th from 2 to 3:30 p.m. That's a Saturday. Mr. Miners and I are going, so is Mr. Wrights and Mr. Shondel, the former councilman who took it upon himself to lead the charge against the growing deer population, will always also be in attendance. This is open to the public, so we would welcome your attendance.
Continuing on with the coyotes, Mrs. Fenderbosch contacted me about an issue that some of her residents were having with coyotes near their property. And just for people to know, if there is a coyote issue that is taking place on that person's property, the way that the coyotes are being handled are like any other of our nuisance animals, whether that's skunks or raccoons. animals like that. And what the police department recommends is that you can give the police department a call at 933-4567, and they will give that resident a list of certified and licensed trappers in the area that can come in and remove that coyote if need be. Residents can also go to the ODNR website, and that list is available on there too. And so if they have an issue with a coyote on their property, those are the ways that they can deal with it. Thank you.
A reminder to the public that on February 21st, the city will be hosting a reception in honor of the grand opening of the Avon Lake Anchor, which is Avon Lake's community and recreation facility located in the Artsdale Center Plaza at the west end of town. The mayor, members of his administration, departmental directors, the Parks and Recreation Commission, and members of council will be in attendance. There'll be a short ceremony and ribbon cutting, and most importantly, the lead sponsor of the facility will be announced, and the logo will be revealed. Following the reception, there'll be some punch and cookies prior to the ward meeting for wards 3 and 4 later that evening. So
I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Julie Short to the Digital Media Commission, effective February 13, 2018, and expiring December 31st, 2018.
Discussion?
Mr. Mayor, would you like to comment on your appointment, please?
I'd be glad to, sir. Thank you. Julie Short, many of you may know, is a reporter for Cleveland.com. That means you see her column every week in the Sun newspapers, and she does work for the Avon Lake City Schools, Avon Schools, North Ridgeville Schools, and a township. I can't remember which one. She does an outstanding job. She is civic-minded, and she, with her degree in journalism and her understanding of the area, I think she would be an ideal individual to serve on the Digital Media Commission. So I respectfully request that you consider her appointment this evening.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion? Mr. Osborne at the roll, please.
Mr. Koss.
Yes.
Mr. Miners.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. James.
yes.
Next motion, Mr. Koss.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Randy Nylund to the Historic Preservation Commission effective February 13th, 2018, and expiring December 31st, 2019.
Discussion?
Yes, I am very pleased to make this appointment, this motion for this appointment this evening. Randy Nylund was the original Planning Commission representative to this commission when it was formed, I believe back in 2008 or 2009. He spent a number of years as the Planning Commission liaison to the Historic Preservation Commission, did an outstanding job. He also served as the chairman of the Planning Commission until term limits forced him off of the commission. The commission is extremely excited to have Randy joining. It's going to feel like he's coming back home. He helped build the Historic Commission to what it is, and I'm very excited for this motion tonight to appoint Randy Nylund.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion, Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Thank you. Randy lives in Ward 2, and he is a very good architect. I'm sure that using his experience and education as an architect is going to be able to help the commission very much. It's a good appointment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor?
If I could, Randy Nylund, as an architect, did serve on Planning Commission, as was just stated. He did an outstanding job, and it's one of the downside of having term limits to various boards. We did have that placed in the charter by the people. Randy did an outstanding job, as Mr. Koss suggested, as being the ex officio member of that board. His architectural experience will serve the city well in that capacity, and I understand he's very eager to get back on that board. There are a lot of fun people on there, so he wants to join them again.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Osborne at the roll, please.
Mr. Koss.
Yes.
Mr. Miners.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Yes. This came through a very, very detailed study by the Historic Preservation Commission. in order for it to come through the process of a historic landmark designation. So first it went through the commission, then it went through planning, and we know that the house is dated back to 1898. The original home was built by Henry and Emma Beck. It was in a traditional homestead style, and it has a full stone cellar, walkout stairs, functional doors, and some of the original chestnut hardwood floors which came from this area. It's a beautiful, beautiful home. This is for the house only, and I'm happy to bring it before all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Mr. Koss.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Council President. Again, for all the reasons that Mrs. Fenderbosch stated, I'm very excited to be approving this tonight. This is one of the homes that came through, the most recent that it's come through the Historic Preservation Commission. And I want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Dominguez very much for bringing their house forward and having it designated. The commission worked very well with them, and we are pleased to have the Dominguezes join the growing group of historically designated homes in Avon Lake. There will be a designation ceremony in the spring, and we hope to see all members of City Council in attendance at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Mr. Rossman with the roll, please.
Mr. Koss.
Yes.
Mr. Miners.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosch.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
A resolution of gratitude and appreciation to Dan Busey. Whereas this council wishes to pause and express its gratitude for commendable public service performed by Dan Busey during his service to the community as council at large from January 1st, 2010 to December 31st, 2017. And whereas Dan Busey served with intelligence and integrity and faithfully executed the duties required of him as a member of Avon Lake City Council. And whereas Dan Busey conscientiously served on the Finance Committee, the Economic Development Committee, the Environmental Committee, Human Resources Committee, and Safety Committee, and served as a chair of the Economic Development Committee and Human Resources Committee, now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Avon Lake, County of Lorraine, State of Ohio, that this council does for and on behalf of the citizens of Avon Lake extend its sincere appreciation and gratitude to Dan Busey for his distinguished service to the community and highly commend him for the manner in which he carried out the duties and responsibilities of the office of Council of Large. That the clerk of council shall include this resolution in the minutes of this meeting, and she is hereby requested to transmit a copy of this resolution to Dan Busey.
James.
Thank you. I move for passage of temporary resolution 11032.
Discussion?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's truly a privilege for me to introduce and sponsor this resolution appreciating Dan Busey. Dan was a member and a colleague of this council for 8 years, serving as a member at the at-large position. He certainly brought a energized, thoughtful, intelligent perspective to City Council. I think we trusted all of his words and thoughts and greatly appreciated his efforts on certainly economic development, but really any committee he touched, human resources, safety, and others. He served truly as a mentor for me at first, coming on to City Council as a junior member of this body, and then truly developed into a friend, for which I miss him at these meetings. I'm certain he is happy spending time with his wife, Andrea, and his 2 children, Kayla and Mia. Perhaps he's watching us this evening. If he is, hello to Dan. But I'm certain that Dan will continue serving the community. He has done so with just true passion at the waterfront with the Avon Lake Wine Festival, and I'm sure we'll continue to see Dan in other ways. But this City Council certainly wants to thank Dan for his time and service to the community, to the citizens. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion? Mr. Rossman with the roll, please.
Mr. Koss.
Yes.
Mr. Miners.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosch.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Clerk will read temporary legislation 11,033, please.
A resolution of gratitude and appreciation to John Shondell. Whereas this council wishes to pause and express its gratitude for commendable public service performed by John Shondell during his service to the community as council at large from January 23, 2012 to December 31, 2017. And whereas John Shondell served with intelligence and integrity and faithfully executed the duties required of him as a member of the Avon Lake City Council. And whereas John Shondell conscientiously served on the Environmental Committee, the Human Resources Committee, Public Utilities Committee, and Sewer Committee, and served as chair of the Environmental Committee, Human Resources Committee, and Public Utility Committee. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Avon Lake, County of Lorraine, State of Ohio, that this council does for and on behalf of the citizens of Avon Lake extend its sincere appreciation and gratitude to John Shondell for his distinguished service to the community and highly commend him for the manner in which he carried out the duties and responsibilities of the office of council at large. That the clerk of council shall include this resolution in the minutes of this meeting, and she is hereby requested to transmit a copy of this resolution to John Shondell.
Minors,
I move for passage of temporary legislation 11033.
discussion.
Yes, John served as a at-large member when the mayor was elected mayor 6 years ago. That left a vacancy at the at-large position. And there were 15 or 16 applicants that applied for that position. And I'm happy to say that John was selected from that number. I know John personally. I served with distinction with John as a member of the American Legion Post 211 here in Avon Lake for almost 10 years. He and I did. He reorganized the Honor Guard at the American Legion Post, and he was so dedicated and so professional that Honor Guard was requested throughout Northeast Ohio to serve at ceremonies for deceased service members. He's a true patriot. He's a retired Special Forces guy. He eats bugs when he's hungry. He does, really. And he served with distinction in the Special Forces, retired colonel, and carried himself in that manner throughout his activities with the city of Avon Lake. He instituted the flag situation throughout the city, that when you see flags that have staff, then you realize that John was the instigator of contacting all the city organizations, to include the schools, that either the president or the governor has ordered the flags that have staff. And if those of you who looked at or have seen the request from the governor today, he has ordered that due to the 2 policemen who were killed this past weekend in the line of duty in the suburbs of Columbus. He's a true friend of mine. He and I both served as David, even though David was a Marine, or is a Marine. John and I were in the Army. We had a lot of fun talking about Army stuff. And when we were interviewing Mr. Presley for the position of finance director, Mr. Presley conducted himself in such a way that both John and I thought he was a prior member of the armed forces. And we were surprised that he was not, because he conducted himself with distinction in that interview. And those of us who were in that room, I think, will testify that he did a fantastic job in applying for that position. And he has served as well since he was awarded that position. John was an individual that I felt very comfortable with, being transparent, and he likewise would call me with stuff, and I would call him with stuff. And like Dan Busey, John will be missed on the city council because of the effort that he put forth, and quite frankly, the deer situation that we currently have, or the deer remedies, potential remedies that we have, John put together and is the template for the state of Ohio and also for some of the other states throughout the United States. John, you'll be missed. Take care, my friend.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. Further discussion? Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to echo the comments by Mr. James for Mr. Busey and then Mr. Meyer's comments for Mr. Shonwell. They certainly made their mark on Avon Lake city government. They made Avon Lake a better place, and it's an honor to have served with them, and it's a pleasure to have known them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Mr. Rossmarin at the roll, please.
Mr. Koss.
Yes.
Mr. Miners.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.